Hey loves, it's Britt, and in this video I'm talking about Moon opposite Neptune in Synastry. So this tends to be a very romantic aspect where we really, right off the bat, feel this kind of emotional, telepathic soul connection. There can be a real feeling of like, this is someone that is a soulmate person to us, someone that really feels like home in a way. And there's also this kind of expectation that through this connection, through this person, we can live out a dream that is like very sacred to us. So you want to look at the position of Neptune. So, like, the Neptune person's a Neptune. What house is it in? Like, for example, my Neptune is in my natal 11th house. And when I have someone's Cancer moon opposing my Neptune, I really get this feeling like that they are like a true friend, right? The 11th house is ruled by or represents friends, and or like this is someone I want to be in a community with, like 11th house, you know. So you want to look at the Neptune person's like where like the house placement of their Neptune is where they're seeking the dream. It's where they're like boundaryless and they're like seeking God really in people. So it's like not a very realistic place, but they can really feel like the moon person at a very deep emotional level is going to help them realize that Neptune dream, right? And then on the other side, you know, the moon in our natal chart shows another aspect of our dreams, but kind of like it's a more closer to home sense of dreams, like emotional fulfillment, like what we really need to feel emotionally secure and happy and, you know, have comfort in the day to day, you know, and depending on the sign and the house placement of our moon, how we're going to fulfill that, how we're going to get our emotional needs met. And the moon person can really feel like the Neptune person can be a role in that. Now, there is the chance with hard aspects, this I would consider this a hard aspect, although it definitely works out a lot better than the square in most cases, that the moon person doesn't see the Neptune person realistically, or they can feel like the Neptune person is very evasive, or like they're like far out, like they're out there, they're not here, you know. Maybe they're not physically around, maybe they live long distance or something, or there's something unreachable about them. Now, that's part of where the attraction lies, is that the thing with Neptune synastry is that part of the attraction is because that person feels unreachable. They feel like an angel in a sense. They feel like some sort of spiritual guide or angel. And especially in this contact, I wouldn't say every single Neptune contact in synastry, the dynamic is that, but there's something very mystical or very spiritual. We can see with this opposition actually that there's an attraction based on spiritual principles. Like, this could show up in a connection where, you know, we're both spiritual healers, or we're both, you know, doing astrology, we're both doing something that's very Neptunian. And we could also see this show up that we're both drug addicts or something, right? Of course, that would be the lower manifestation of this. So there's some sort of connection based on something Neptunian, and we're both really seeing in each other, although in a different way, that this person might be the magic key that unlocks our dream life, or this person might have that magic code that's going to just totally transform us for the better and make life magical and beautiful and divine in a way. So obviously, that's a lot of pressure to put on someone. So depending on the rest of the synastry, if it's not so great, there can be a lot of disappointment in this contact, because it is hard to live up to that when you put so much pressure on someone to just be like this divine spiritual soul person who's gonna like fix your whole life magically. Sometimes it doesn't end up happening, and there can be disappointment, there can be heartbreak, there can be, you know, when you come to the realization of who the person actually is, that could be devastating. But the interesting thing about the opposition, and even like one of my favorite books says this too, Planets in Synastry. That's like my favorite Synastry book. But basically, it says that like more often than not, you actually exist in a long-term relation with this aspect, like, or it works out more often than not. So it's something along the lines of that is said. And yeah, I can see how that would be, because the way that Neptune is and the way that the opposition aspect works, right, is that there is a lot of projection, but there is really, with the opposition aspect, a potential for wholeness, right? A potential that we're going to really realize the potentials of our moon or our Neptune. Like, we're going to come to this place in the middle where we meet in the middle of that polarity of the signs, and we're going to make dreams come true. So it is possible that this will be the best relationship of your life in some format. And on the positive, there is a real level of emotional telepathy, which on the negative can lead you to a lot of fears or worries or emotions coming up, which might not necessarily be comfortable. But where this would be really good is if you both are on a spiritual path, or you're both like kind of helping each other with emotional things, because emotional things are going to be brought up here, because there's this level of like, it's similar to the square, but generally working out a bit better. There's this level of like triggers and fears and unconscious emotional stuff getting brought up here. You want to look at the house placements to see, and the signs, what's being brought up. But it's definitely being brought up, and there is this like undercurrent of like emotions being brought to the surface. Now, this can create a great intimacy. This can feel so deep, so vulnerable, so intimate when you have this aspect in Synastry, that it can really be unforgettable. It can really be a very, very deep connection, and the little bit of projection or not seeing each other realistically can actually be balanced out by the level of deep emotional intimacy that can actually occur. Now, as the Neptune person, you want to be aware and be cautious of just trying to be who the moon wants you to be. Like, you still want to be your own person, because that's the thing with when you're the Neptune person, is like sometimes you can feel you're being idolized or idealized, and like you can want to, like, subtly, you don't really mean to do this, but kind of go along with the projection. Now, with this aspect, you want to be sure to be very authentic with your intentions. You want to be real with who you are. And, know that, like, you don't have to be some fake dream person to have your soulmate. Like, you get to be you. You don't have to hide your, like, ugly parts or your scars, or, like, you can be yourself, warts and all, and still have a deep connection. And that's actually how, with this aspect or any aspect, you can make the relationship even more intimate, is by being authentically you and real. But yeah, this one, there's not a lot that can equal the level of like emotional high that this aspect can produce. It is like a drug. The level of feeling, and like this feeling of like getting a hit of your dreams with this person. Like, it's like the dream lover. And yeah, you want to personalize it by looking at the signs and the houses that this aspect is taking place in, but it's generally a very deep connection, and it can be very helpful for spiritual growth and spiritual work. But of course, on the negative side, with this opposition, you could also cause each other to revert back into escapist behaviors. Like I mentioned, if you're drug addicts, you're going to encourage each other to do more drugs. If you're alcoholics, you're going to love to get together and drink. So this would be the negative manifestation. Or if you're, emotionally very much like in the victim all the time, then being with this person, you might be more of that. You know, that's the thing about the opposition, is it's kind of like, I said this in my last video I did about an opposition aspect in Synastry, is that the opposition is kind of like the full moon aspect. So in a way, we really get the potential for the fullness of these energies to come out, and it's very powerful, and it can really magnify all that's within us. So if we have some escapist behavior, some negative Neptunian behavior, this aspect will bring it out in a big way. So you just want to be aware of that. There's always a positive and negative manifestation of any aspects, even the hard aspects like this. So I'd love to know your experience of this aspect in Synastry. If you've had it, what was it like for you? I'd love to know in the comments. And thank you so much for your requests, you guys. This was requested. Keep those requests coming. Love you guys. Okay, talk soon.